Hello again. Welcome back to the Movie Buff Reactions channel. Today I'm going to be continuing my string of reactions to the recently put out Nostalgia Critic reviews of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy. And the last one was Batman Begins, and if you haven't seen that reaction, my quick thoughts were I liked that movie and I thought his review was pretty good. He was fair, he liked it, but he took jabs at the moments that deserved a little riffing, and it's this review that made me really keen on doing these recently put out reviews, which I normally don't do, just because Doug has said many times over the years how much he loves The Dark Knight, and I really wanted to see what he has to say and give my thoughts, and I decided that I can't really react to just this review without reacting to his reviews of the other Nolan movies. And before we jump in, just to give my quick thoughts, because one of the things that I'm keen on is I have a very differing opinion of The Dark Knight compared to Doug and many others. To put it simply, and I know I'm probably going to get a little bit of hate for this, I fucking despise The Dark Knight. I watched it many years ago, and I've watched it all the way through 2 or 3 times, and honestly, each time I hate it more than the last, and I have many reasons that I will get into later after I've watched this video, but I will say, I do agree, Heath Ledger is great as the Joker, but other than that, I don't care for the rest of the film. Bale's Bruce Wayne, the story, the supporting characters, Two-Face, just never got into it, and the messages that the film has I found were pretty lousy, and without further ado and digging my grave, let's jump in and see what he has to say and see if he makes any good points.
To buy stamps.com. Why go to the store to get stamps when you can have them printed right at home for your convenience? Also brought to you by Chime, the award-winning app and debit card that can save you money today. Nostalgia guy, remember? So you don't have to. This is one of my favorite movies.
Glad you love it, man.
Released in 2008 under a buttload of hype, I'll admit I didn't think this movie was going to be anything that special. I liked Batman Begins, but thought ironically the Batman parts were a little awkward. So with him obviously being more prominent in this one with the Joker who didn't fall into a vat of chemicals, I was already throwing up my hands like a man baby saying, this ain't gonna work. But man, did it win me over fast.
Some people are still like that.
The dialogue, the visuals, the intensity, even the action were not just improved on, they were a spectacle.
I agree with that.
Mass public saying maybe superhero movies can be more adult than we thought. Every decade or so a comic book movie comes along that does that, and I kind of love it's usually a Batman movie. With that said, like most things declared flawless, I can't quite say this is flawless. There are still a few hiccups when it comes to the story, and little things like poor Bale's bat voice. This city, to show you.
So it sounds a little better than it did in Batman Begins.
That's a shame. But it goes without saying, this movie left a big impact not only on comic book flicks, but just cinema in general. It challenged how seriously we took heroes and villains that were seen as entertainment for children and teens, and showed there were strong reasons we should still see them as heroes and villains as adults. I'm pretty excited to look this over again, so let's jump right into it.
And to an extent, so am I.
A movie that clearly hasn't gotten enough attention. The Dark Knight. It opens with a robbery at one of the mob banks in Gotham. It should be pointed out part of this movie was shot in IMAX, and if they ever release it again on an IMAX screen, it's definitely worth it. I think most people have pointed out the Joker's mask is from an Atlanta West episode, and I do legit love that once you know which one he is, the camera does smartly follow him. Like upon second viewing, you are curious of what his reactions are, even if it's all just body language.
I know what they call him the Joker.
So why do they call him the Joker?
I heard he wears makeup.
Makeup?
Yeah, to scare people. You know, war paint.
This scene's pretty awesome. I was shocked to find it's only 5 minutes long. So much happens, I swear it was double that. You'll find the condense a lot of information tight and efficiently in this movie, which until the last fourth works to its benefit, but we'll get to that in a minute.
You have any idea who you're stealing from?
After taking down a
William Fichtner
cameo, we find the Joker manipulated the gangsters to take each other out, until he's the only one left to do a badass reveal.
Whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you...
There he is.
As many have pointed out, the plans of the Joker, played by Heath Ledger in his final role, are very easy to pick apart. How did he know there'd be a gap in the buses? How did he know where the choppers would be for the wires? How did he know the exact location where to stand so that explosion wouldn't kill him? And this is where I just shrug and say, comic book shit. Yes, this is meant to be more realistic, but it is still a guy
to an
who flies
extent.
around as a bat, battling a clown. I give leeway on the technicals because comic book movies are supposed to be exaggerated to heighten the effect. So these details really don't bother me. What does bother me is the Scarecrow once again getting the shaft. Despite being in all three movies, he somehow never gets enough time and always comes across as underwhelming. But not as underwhelming as Batman. Wow, Bale really let himself go. Was he getting an early star for his Cheney role? No, these are other vigilantes.
Well, transformation.
Many elements taken from the comics. But the real Batman shows up and... I don't know, it doesn't look that much better. I know I mocked before how silly the suit looks, but in this one, I think it shows the most. I mean, come on. He looks funny. It's not bad all the time, but when they don't know how to shoot him, they really don't know how to shoot him. If I was Gordon, I'd be like, several of these banks were robbed by him.
Looks like they had to squeeze him in there.
It's ironically not as funny as "Don't look at me, I'm gonna pee my pants." The costume does get an upgrade later, which isn't great, but I can at least look at him without thinking garage sale cosplay. And how about those vocals?
What's the difference between you and me?
I'm not wearing hockey pads. I am doing my best Patty and Selma voice, though. We're introduced to District
Probably gonna be me in a
Attorney
few
Harvey,
years.
played
I
by
keep
Jacob
smoking.
And I'm not gonna lie, his intro made me wonder if critics were wrong when I saw this movie.
I see you hostile. Get him out of here. Your Honor, I'm not done.
I find you guilty of being a badass mother. Harvey! 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 Even for a comic book movie, that was uncomfortably dumb, but it does get back on track pretty fast. As this film just as easily could have been called Gotham City, because a surprisingly good chunk of it is showing people working behind the scenes trying to take down the mob, using clever legal action. And it's legitimately interesting to watch.
In a RICO case, if you can charge one of the conspirators with a felony, you can charge all.
The movie cleverly utilizes the slow burn building up to the Joker and why the mob would turn to him.
Eric Roberts.
So it takes a liking to Dent. And it's not all because he's dating his ex Rachel, played this time by Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Were they ever a couple?
The Romans would suspend democracy and appoint one man to protect the city.
Before the League of Shadows took them down. Oh yeah, that's canon.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Painfully poignant, yet poignantly painful. While the mob scrambles to figure out how to keep their money safe from Dent, the Joker, fresh off of robbing them,
This is a good
says for
scene.
half the money he can help them out. But not before a magic trick.
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear.
I've seen the trick before. It's in his eye.
Simple. We kill the Batman.
I have an army of pencils ready to take him down. I don't preach it to the choir, but Ledger really does dominate every scene he's in.
Agreed.
Some of his weird voices and tics so easily could have backfired, but it adds to the believability that he's intelligent, yet clearly crazy. Anytime he puts his life on the line, I totally believe he'd be okay with dying because he'd be doing what he loves, and he probably...
Except for that moment with the fingers on the
Speaking of which, the
trigger.
dude is funny.
You think you can steal from us and just walk away?
Yeah.
It's not even that clever a line, yet he made it hilarious. Speaking of hilarious, this is another scene where the Batman costume just cracks me up. Harvey calls him with the bad signal, and he just stands there while Harvey and Gordon talk.
You're sitting down there with scum like Wirtz and Ramirez and you're talking. Oh yeah, Gordon.
God, this makes me laugh. He's like a kid waiting for mom and dad to look at his drawing.
I drew a picture of
Looks like he's holding in a big fart.
It's all black.
Oh yeah, Gordon.
Green Lantern thought it looked pretty.
On a racketeering league.
Meanwhile, we see one of the mobsters, played by Michael J. White, just does not have the best luck with clowns.
No,
Joker impression.
Mommy gets the kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that.
The Joker changes his backstory constantly, once again a clever holdover from the comic. But I think what makes them especially creepy is he tells them like they really happened. Any of these could have been the actual story, and you would believe it because he's so dedicated to convincing his victims it's real. He probably would slip in the real story just for his own personal laugh.
She can't stand the sight of me. She leaves. Now I see the funny side.
I'll also say, while the music in Batman movies is usually great, the Joker's theme takes it to a whole new level. In my opinion, a good third of what makes him scary is that disturbing drone that half the time sounds like a broken hairdryer. But Jesus, it's a scary-ass broken hairdryer.
Yeah, that music is very effective with him.
Meanwhile, Bruce flies to Hong Kong to try and get the mob boss who is holding all the mafia's money. They use sonar technology to nab him, leading to a line that's honestly too smart for its own good.
Sonar. Just like a submarine was away. Like a submarine.
I have no joke, I think people just miss how obnoxiously clever that is. Batman breaks into the monster's building and uses what's like a submarine for the air, or a flying animal like a pigeon.
Well, that could have gone better.
He's dropped off to the cops where he tries to make a deal with Rachel, Harvey, and Gordon. Wait a minute, isn't this supposed to be a Joker story? There we go. Oh my god, I died? One of the bad imposters is murdered, and the Joker will continue.
I'm not sure they'd show that on
until
TV.
Batman reveals himself. I don't care if it turns into a found footage movie, this is the creepiest scene in the flick. While rehearsing, Kane admitted he forgot his
Honestly,
lines.
that scene never
So
disturbed
scared
me.
shitless of Heath's performance.
I'm a man of my word.
Blind schmines, I'm forgetting I have bladder control
I don't get
right
it.
now.
Never even gave me a chill.
Games of holding the law, naturally in a comedic way.
Get in, open it, it'll tell you where you're heading.
Oh, I get it. And he tries to kill Harvey Dent as well, but Batman is there to stop him.
Let her go.
Very poor choice of words.
No shout out to Senator Lee.
Please throw her off the building so I can save her and she'd date me.
That would have been more specific.
They survive what they clearly should not have survived, but again, comic book movie. And Bruce
Yeah.
tries to figure out more who this Joker supposedly working for the mob is.
You hammered them to the point of desperation. And in their desperation, they turned to a man they didn't fully understand.
Isn't that the intro to like every Trump book now? Two more people end up dead. And
Cheap
the Joker
shot.
writes an obituary for the mayor in the paper. That somehow nobody stopped. Where was the editor that day? And one of Wayne's employees notices something a little odd while doing some research.
What are you building for him now? Rocket ship. I want
A
Yeah.
rocket ship.
10.
How has more people not figured it out if it was this easy?
He believes him. Yeah, it's a little odd, but I guess I can buy it. And at the commissioner's funeral, everyone is seeing if the Joker will follow through with killing the mayor.
Commissioner Loeb dedicated his life to law enforcement and to the protection of his community.
Oh, this has all been a misunderstanding. It's not Batman he was after, it's Batman well. The Joker does get his shot, but it's not for
It's
the
cool
mayor.
how he doesn't have the makeup.
His family sadly has to be told the bad news.
You brought this craziness on us! You did! You brought this on us!
At least I don't wear hockey pads.
That scene could have been a bit more dramatic. Like, the weight of it could have been a bit more dramatic, but I don't think any of us ever really buy that Gordon bit the dust. So, just knowing that he survived just kind of hurts the ability to take it too seriously. And this is the commercial, so I'm just going to skip ahead.
Batman goes to a nightclub to confront one of the mobsters working with the Joker.
Why is nobody doing the Bat-2C?
Meanwhile, Harvey, kind of playing to the split personality thing, but not a ton, threatens one of the Joker's men using a trick coin, saying he has a 50-50 chance of living.
You're the symbol of hope. I can never be. If anyone saw this, everything would
Really? Aaron Eckhart?
Batsuit talking in a silly voice and saying, "You're acting crazy!" Batman says he'll turn himself in to stop the bloodshed, but not before hitting on Rachel one more time.
You know that day that you once told me about when Gotham would no longer need Batman?
You can't ask me to wait for that.
It's happening now.
I'll just say it, Bruce's simp romance with her is kind of pathetic. She's seen someone else, she seems happy, he's now going to prison, yet he constantly makes a play that maybe they can work out.
I'm glad at least he acknowledged that.
Don't make me your one hope for normal life.
Did you mean it when you said you'd marry me when we grew up? It's kind of embarrassing. Maybe
Agreed.
that's the idea, like, despite all his brilliant badassness, this is the one area where he's kind of a desperate dork. But with so much else going on in these movies, their chemistry has never been that strong.
Yeah. Not even with Eckhart.
I need someone more mentally sound, like a guy who would kill a man literally on the turn of a dime. In a surprise twist, though, Harvey tells everyone that he's Batman.
I am the Batman.
Why would anyone buy that?
I love that Nolan realizes the trick to get a good Two-Face is to get Harvey down. He knows in order to make the transformation more painful, he needs to be relatable. And a lot of time is dedicated to him being portrayed as heroic and likable, and not to a fake degree.
I never found him heroic or likable in the slightest.
Stop reminding me that clip's in this movie. The Joker rigs it where they have to take the lower route,
Lower fifth would be like turkeys on Thanksgiving down there.
which they clearly don't. There's tons of ways around this. And the Joker chases them, trying to blow open the truck.
These things are built for that, right? He's gonna need something a lot bigger to get through this.
That old routine.
But Batman shows up, and where I really bashed the action in the first film, I can say not only is it a lot better in this one, but it has one of my favorite action sequences of all time. This chase is so well laid out, keeps the adrenaline high, and brilliantly has no music, so you can focus only on what you're seeing. Again, the music
It is a
great,
spectacle.
but cutting it out here makes everything strangely more epic. There's not even much dialogue. The language of this scene is practically nothing but crashes and explosions. It's also edited much better. In the last one, everything was so shaky and cut around too quick. Here, you can make out everything and really feel like you're riding alongside them. When Batman crashes through a window, it doesn't just cut randomly to somewhere else. You actually get to follow him through the window this time. You get to experience what he's experiencing. Look at the clowns firing at them. It's like you're in a live-action video game. To a point where every time I drive a lower whacker, I can't help but get a little bit of an adrenaline rush because I always think of this scene. On top of that, almost all of it is really there. Yes, there was some model work and a few moments of CG, but they were used only when they had to be.
I can respect the practicality.
All these cars blowing up or crashing. You simply
Big
feel
props to
immersed
that.
when you know what you're looking at is really there.
Oh, you wanna play? Come on.
It all builds up to a topper that everybody saw in the trailer, but you got so wrapped up, you forgot it was coming. And everybody roared in the theater when it finally happened.
Boom!
This leads to the ultimate showdown shit Gotham has ever had, with Batman charging towards the Joker.
I'll say again, I said years ago. What a pussy.
A surprise that shocked the hell out of me.
We got you, you son of a bitch.
Again, the crowd went nuts here. I think it shows
You really
that
thought he had
really
died?
working when there isn't a character you're not rooting for. It's kind of like the Coyote and Roadrunner, because everything with me is for some reason. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad. If they're passionate and interesting, you do want them to succeed in one way or another. Things go south, though, when both Harvey and Rachel disappear. Thus, the Joker and Batman finally have a sit-down. This is basically a Funhouse mirror version of Heat, but who gives a shit? It's great.
I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people.
That's where I really fell in love with Heath Ledger.
Joker says he's trying to make a point as an agent of chaos, which is a little contradictory. If you're an agent of chaos, you shouldn't have a point. But he does go back and forth between proving something and just spreading madness that I think it kind of acquits itself.
Don't worry. I'm gonna tell you where they are. And that's the point.
He tells him where Harvey and Rachel are as they're both in separate buildings about to be blown up. Batman goes to save Rachel, but discovers the Joker switched the addresses.
I'm sorry, this scene was hilarious when I watched
When
it.
this movie came out, the trope of killing the love interest was already kind of played, but not so often in comic book movies. I guess you could argue Lois Lane, but she comes right back, so I don't think it really counts. In my opinion, this does what Spider-Man didn't have the balls to do, and Amazing Spider-Man 2 was late to the party. My only problem, he doesn't mourn her that much. Yeah, we get him looking over the wreckage and sulking in his room a bit, but Alfred's like, you can take it, and it's never brought up again by him.
Did you think there might be some casualties?
Oh man, I thought Bale did a good job playing the morning
Honestly, Harvey takes it a lot harder, which makes
role.
sense as this, mixed with the fact that his face got blown off, drives him insane. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think maybe the movie should have ended here. This is the emotional height of the film. The Joker escapes. Harvey is scarred. We're at 1 hour 40 minutes, a perfect running time. Imagine if it just stopped like this.
Too short for Batman.
That would have been goddamn chilling. Seeing how they build up another one at the end anyway, I feel like this could have worked. But instead, we have 50 minutes left, and honestly, what's in this 50 minutes could have filled a whole other film. I guess because they wanted to squeeze in so much, it's condensed in the final third. But like I said before, it is condensed well. Not only is half of Harvey's face scarred, and a pretty great effect that still holds up, but his
it's impressive
too. I love this because it represents how now he can't play tricks, he can't make his own luck. It worked for a while, but it cost him dearly, and now he's spun into the opposite, where everything is one way or another, brought on by chance.
I told you.
Okay, that's a good point, I'll give him that.
I just Scrooge McDucked myself. As you'd expect,
That does
though,
look
he
fun.
sets the money ablaze and calls in on a talk show with the employee from earlier saying he's gonna reveal who Batman is. Joker says he likes the mystery now, and if the guy isn't dead in an hour, he'll blow up a hospital. Yeah, like I said, they tried to squeeze in a lot in this last third. People scrambling, both evacuating hospitals and trying to kill this guy. Bruce does manage to save him, but make it look like it was an accident.
That's a very brave thing you did. Trying to catch the light?
Hey, thanks, Batman. I guess I ruined that.
And then this fucker never comes back.
With the Joker
Guess
wearing
he just goes on knowing forever and keeping the
movie.
secret.
And yes, this was a popular cosplay for a while. He convinces Harvey that he's
It
just
could
a
be
bad
hot.
dog and he should take vengeance out on those who let him off his leash. This begins Harvey's coin flipping, and I do like he puts the Joker in his trial of chance too. It really does make sense a villain based on chaos and a villain based on chance would fit well in the same movie.
You live. You die. Now we're talking.
Of course, he gets lucky, Harvey escapes, and the Joker blows up the hospital that again really was demolished and looks amazing.
It
There's
does.
a rumor that the explosions accidentally stopped and Ledger improvised the scene of him hitting the detonator until they went off again. But look at the camera work, look at the staging, look at how many explosions there are. That's not how this works. Nolan even said they purposefully had it stop so they could set the demolition part up while keeping Ledger safe. Even if the rumor isn't true though, it's still a spectacular moment. But then we get another climax. Yeah, honestly, the whole third act is just one long climax.
This is probably the dumbest part of the film.
You don't want to be in the game. Get out now.
Random. He puts a bomb on two fairies who must make a choice which boat will blow up. And if they don't choose in an hour, they'll both blow up.
So, they blow each other up in the first minute.
May not be quite so noble.
First off, this kind of feels like a two-faced plan, like you're forced to choose one or the other. And second, this is where the movie stops being great and instead just becomes good. We're introduced to this idea of Batman using everyone's cell phones to track everything. This alone could be an interesting movie instead of just the last half hour.
This is wrong.
I've got to find this man, Lucius.
I'm also going to take a wild guess and say this is a commentary on the George W. Bush administration. Harvey starts
Because of
to
course.
people who wronged him in ways I still don't fully understand.
You driver.
Did he get out of the car or what? What happened there? People in the fair are debating what to do like it's a Saw movie. The hostages are switched with the henchmen. We have to have a hand-to-hand fight with the Joker. Even though it's all done well, after the hospital bit, I'm kind of done. This would have been a great climax in another Dark Knight movie, but they squeezed it all in here, and that's what it feels like. It feels like it's squeezed in. The little leeway I'll give it is that it is like what the previous film said. It is about escalation. The chaos never stops. It's relentless.
Not good
Everything's
escalation.
spinning out of control and crumbling with Batman trying to pick up the pieces. That is essentially the Joker. I just think there were better ways to do it than to just add an Act 4. But it is still very intense and keeps your interest. As
No,
Harry blows the
they would
other
not
up,
do that.
It stops the Joker from detonating them both. The Joker reveals how destroying Harvey was his ace in the hole.
All it takes is a little push.
And I'll just say, when I saw this clip in the trailer, I was saying to myself, did they make the Joker fly in this? Even though the Joker's arrested, Harvey kidnaps Gordon's family and gives them the same coin toss as the others.
You're not going to hurt my family, just the person you love most. It's your wife.
It can't be your daughter. We haven't decided if she's going to be Batgirl in the future or not. We're definitely going to screw up Robin, but we have to hold out on this one.
Hurt the boy, Harvey. Your mother's in here with us, Garrus. Would you like to leave a message?
Batman arrives, and through a violent tussle, Harvey falls to his death. To save his reputation, Batman tells Gordon that the story has to be that he killed Harvey's victims.
I killed those people. You're not. I'm whatever God needs me to be.
Irony that they're saying spying on people is wrong, but lying about who killed someone is fine. But you get the idea of the lesson. He's taking a hit for Gotham. It's about endurance. It's about
There could have been a better way to go
making
about
people
this.
Even more freaked out about fake news. Okay, this didn't age that great. But still.
A watchful protector. The Dark Knight.
And that was The Dark Knight. Despite its few problems, I still think it's fantastic. This really did change how serious people took superhero movies. It hit just the right notes at just the right time. The lines are so quotable, the dilemma is so intriguing, the character's so memorable. For a while, this Joker became an icon of, shall we say, meaningful madness. Despite being a villain, he reflected a sort of anti-authoritative chaos that struck a chord at that point in time. The same way
Still
Phoenix played
does.
his own way at a different point in time. Well, okay, I can't say it's perfection. The amazing moments overshadow all of the flaws, and gave you an amazing experience that changed the cinematic landscape of this genre. It's still one of my all-time favorites, and I know I'm not alone. If you haven't watched it in a while, pop it in again, and watch one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. I'm a Nostalgia Critic guy, remember it, so you don't have to.
You don't want to hurt the boy, Harvey.
That voice. That voice. So, that was Nostalgia Critic's review of The Dark Knight, and before I get into what I think about the movie, in case you're wondering what I've been doing with this fucking pencil, I've been jotting down some of Doug's points because it's a little hard at times when I'm watching something for the first time to remember everything off the top of my head, so I decided to jot down what I thought were some key points that Doug brought up. And first thing he said, the action improved. I agree. The action here is much better than it was in Batman Begins, in the sense that you can actually see what the hell is going on. The part where he talks about it's a comic book movie, just go with it, the shit with the Joker and the robbery. To an extent, I can agree with that. There's some moments where even the it's a comic book movie excuse, I think, isn't strong enough, but I'll get into that. The Scarecrow, he was very tacked on in the beginning. And, yeah, Harvey Dent's opening scene with the gun in the courtroom, tribute to the original version of how he became Two-Face. Yeah, that was pretty fucking stupid. And, agree, Heath Ledger is fucking amazing, and the Scar stories are some very well acted bits. I wish he had given a little bit of acknowledgement to Senator Patrick Lee, who plays the guy who's like, we're not intimidated by thugs, just cause it's a fun cameo to point out. Like, that old ass son of a bitch has been in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Batman movies, and just cool that somebody in the Senate would be up for that. They'd be that into Batman. And the Zimmer theme, Hans Zimmer, his music, the Joker theme, I agree. It does add a bit. The music is pretty decent in this trilogy, and particularly the Joker's music really does add the threat he gives. And what Doug said about the home video scene where he shows the guy that he killed, he's like, "Look at me!" I'm alone in this, I guess, but I never found that scene to be disturbing, personally. It felt, I mean, Heath Ledger, he's good, but it wasn't done exactly in the right way, I think, where it actually was scary. And I am so fucking glad that he acknowledged the romance, the would-be romance between Bruce and Rachel was just fucking bland, just there's no development, and Batman really comes off as a pathetic simp bitch in these scenes. And yeah, the chase scene, that is fucking awesome. The car crash, the truck flip, I agree, like the going down the highway, all that was shot magnificently. And the part where Gordon was revealed, I didn't see The Dark Knight in the theater. I didn't see it until The Dark Knight Rises had already been out for a while. It didn't shock me, obviously, because maybe it's because I know he'd be in the third one, but I'm not sure. Did anyone really buy that maybe he wasn't gonna pop up? Or okay, forget that way of looking at it. Is it really that shocking that he would be there? Because he's fucking Commissioner Gordon. He's a cop. Of course, he'd be on the scene. And the part where he talks about it should have ended while Harvey's in the hospital, I'm not sure exactly. I mean, that would be a ballsy way to end, but I'm not sure that would be the exact moment to end, because an hour 40 minutes, that is really short for a Batman film. And there are some superhero movies that can pull off the shorter runtime, but not a lot. I mean, Dolph Lundgren's The Punisher, while not perfect, was a good short comic book based movie. Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, really not a good short superhero movie. The part where he talks about the cell phone spying bit, that part did feel very forced. I agree with that, and especially when you raise the question of what is the line that is drawn. And well, I have a lot more issues than what he had. Yeah, I will agree. The third act went on quite a bit, and somebody who's had to sit through Richard Stanley's Hardware in the past few weeks, I understand a movie going on much longer than it fucking should. His final wraparound thoughts that he gave, last of the notes I jotted down. Yes, while I didn't agree with everything, and I didn't enjoy as much as others, I do agree The Dark Knight clearly had a huge influence on superhero movies, the same way Blade brought life back into the genre after all the shit with Batman and Robin. And the Joker, there's a lot of ways to look at the Joker, and I think I'll save that for later, but right now I want to get into my thoughts, my own thoughts on The Dark Knight, because I did enjoy this review. I don't agree with everything, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's really cool to see Doug really delve into the Christopher Nolan movies that he's talked about and really loved for so long over the years, minus the third one. Now, going back to what I said earlier, I really didn't get into The Dark Knight. I got into Batman Begins pretty well the first time I saw it, and I honestly was excited to see The Dark Knight for the first time. I turned off all the lights, put on my big TV, and I came out of it feeling just livid. I fucking despised pretty much 80 to 90% of this movie, And a lot of that has to do with the character of Bruce Wayne in Batman, who I think is just arrogant fucking retard in this movie. He underestimates the Joker, doesn't take him seriously at first, has this real high and mighty philosophy, and I know this is part of the lore, but the whole Batman never kills bullshit mentality. I grew up watching the Tim Burton Batman movies, so the whole superheroes never kill thing was never my flavor, and I'm a Charles Bronson fan all the way through and through, so to have this strong, we shouldn't kill, it's not right, it lowers us to them, and I get some things that do that well, but this really stretched it, and all I could think is it would be so much simpler if he, I don't know, killed the occasional guy, and I made him alone that, but the way they pushed the never kill mentality, just, it was like they just beat you over the fucking head with it. Once again, the character was arrogant, smug, came off as real, like he believes he's got it all figured out above everything else, that there's no flaws in his way of thinking, and also, and this is a big thing, this is a big fucking thing, so much of Bruce Wayne's decisions, the way he goes about being a superhero, him trying to end things, especially near the end, and it carries into the third film, all of it has to do with his love for Rachel. Like, he's making all these decisions based around her in the hope that one day they'll get together. But here's the thing that I don't see what he'll bring up. They mentioned that she's his ex, but as far as I could tell when I watched this trilogy, we never actually saw them as a couple. Maybe they were in the past, but we never saw it. And she's with Harvey, and then she dies, and her dying, it plays a big part in him deciding to give up the Bat title. And I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute, is he doing all of these decisions, making all these choices based on a chick who we never saw him date, so it's like they were never officially a couple? So he's doing all this for someone who he was, as far as we know, never really with, let alone got to fuck, and he's acting like she was the love of his life. Just, what the fuck? Sorry for that awkward edit. I had to change the battery, and I don't want to leave out any of my thoughts. Just, as I said, Bruce Wayne is a dumb fucking retard, especially when it comes to Rachel. He does a lot of questionable shit. Again, the cell phone crap. And Harvey Dent, Aaron Eckhart, I've seen him do some good acting in some other things, but I found him, and honestly, almost everybody in the cast to be pretty lame. Like, I never felt Harvey Dent was much of a hero character, and I never really got behind him until he became Two-Face, and even then, as Two-Face, he's kind of wasted. He's there, but he doesn't play a huge part into the main plot, and at the end, he's out, and nobody knows the truth. I didn't buy, Doug says he didn't buy the chemistry or the romance with Bruce and Rachel. I never bought the romance with Harvey and Rachel. The love triangle aspect they were kind of going for, which never really amounted to anything. And Maggie Gyllenhaal, Katie Holmes was pretty fucking bad as Rachel in Batman Begins, and I'll give Maggie Gyllenhaal this, she's not as bad as her, but I really didn't care for her in this, her acting, and I can't tell if it's Christopher Nolan's directing, but the writing also didn't help. I mean, it's one thing when you're struggling to understand the character, but when you don't have a good script, it doesn't do you any favors, and this was never a well-written character. Pretty much all the female characters in the Nolan Batman trilogy I found were either pretty badly written or just, you just fucking hated them. And in a weird way, the one where David S. Goyer directly was involved with writing the script was the better of the two films that were directly written by Chris and Jonathan Nolan. And Gary Oldman, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, they got a few moments of life here, but maybe I'm alone. I just found Oldman, like I said in my last reaction video, to be he comes off very constipated in terms of the way he delivers his lines. Like, he comes off like he's stressing, trying to hold something in. And Caine, Freeman, actors who I think are fucking excellent, are really starting to show their stiffness, which will go full George Lucas directed acting style in the third one. And lastly, and this is the last of my main cons to list, because if I list any more, it'll be my own full-on review, but the part with the fairies and the bomb. My best friend, Mike Sintros, whose music I play at the end of all my videos, we talked a few years ago about this, and this was something that really, like, he liked The Dark Knight more than me, but this really got under his skin. The Joker putting the bombs on the fairies and telling the people they have to decide, blowing up or he kills both fairies, and he agreed. Like, they wait the full hour and they don't blow each other up, and it leads to the whole, this city, it showed you it's better thing. And me, Mike, we both had the same thought. No. There is no way both fairies would hold out. One of them or both of them would be blown up in the first fucking minute. And if the people, like the citizens of Gotham, if they didn't blow up the air fairy, then yeah, the convict fairy, they would have overtaken those guards and they would have blown it up. And I really thought Tommy Tiny Lister Jr., who's been great in other stuff, his role was fucking bullshit, where he just throws it out the window like, no, 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 no. And it reminded me of Wonder Woman 1984. Like, Doug gave that movie shit at the end, where Wonder Woman convinced the whole world to retract their wishes to defeat the villain, and that's how I feel here. Humanity has never been and never will be that good. Okay, I'm done going full classic Spoonie with my little rant there. Now, I am not a fan of The Dark Knight, and if you are, and that's fine. I'm glad you got something out of it. I just couldn't get into it. I tried, I really wanted to, but the more I watched it, the more it just dragged me down, pissed me off, and every time I tried to rewatch it, I found myself hating it a little more. And here, with Doug reviewing it, this is the most I've ever been able to sit through The Dark Knight without just punching the side of the couch. And I think the best way to wrap up would be talk about anything I did like about it. I've already talked about the action. I think the action is pretty good, and the fact that it's mostly practical is something I really appreciate and got a lot of respect for. But I will agree, as much as I do not like this movie, Heath Ledger as the Joker is fucking amazing. I almost want to rewatch the film just for Ledger, but I had to remind myself, no, the rest is not worth it. But every scene where he's the Joker, I just was blown away. I fell in love, and he was a great new version of the clown prince of crime. And while Jared Leto tried to pretty much copy him to certain extents when he did the character, the thing that made Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix stand out in their portrayals and won their Oscars is they were doing something different than the previous Jokers. And Ledger, the thing that really makes him stand out is he's the only character who I can say really had a personality that stuck out, that I remembered. And he's the only actor. I mean, I love Christian Bale. I love most of these people, but chalk it up to the direction, but Ledger's the only one that really, I think, elevates this movie, for me at least, and he is iconic in this film, and even though I'm listing my pros, there is one kind of half con I have to bring in. Something that especially upset me when watching The Dark Knight is I hated Batman so much in this movie. I hated Bruce Wayne so much. I was actually rooting for the Joker, and I wanted him to pretty much destroy Gotham, destroy Batman, piss on his corpse, and that's kind of where I felt The Dark Knight failed as a movie for me. It had me rooting for an anarchist, terrorist, motherfucker, and say what you will, but a lot of the Joker's points, while he may contradict himself here and there, what he says about humanity, people, he has a good point, and there's some that he's really right on, and the whole them not blowing each other up, that was convoluted as shit, and that's where the whole suspension of disbelief, it's a comic book movie, I can't use that as an excuse, just, God! As much as I love him, I will have to ask, just because I'm curious, if Heath Ledger had not died, do you think he would have won the Oscar for his performance as the Joker? I mean, it is great, but, and maybe it's because I am kind of thrown off by the rest of this film that I don't like, but do you think he would have won if he hadn't died? I mean, Joaquin Phoenix, he was spectacular, and I think he earned that Oscar, but he was the main character, and I can't say for sure if Heath Ledger would have won if he had lived, but he was amazing, and he's the only thing in this movie that stuck out to me as genuinely good all the way through, and I really love this review. If you loved it, hated it, let me know, and let me know what you think of what I had to say, just because it's always interesting to find out, and I will see you again soon. I need to take a break after these two back-to-back reactions. I will see you soon for Doug Walker's Nostalgia Critic review of The Dark Knight Rises, which I like just a little bit more than The Dark Knight.